Good day, people. So we're in Niagara Falls, New York. Got a wedding tomorrow. Today I'm shooting some B-roll. Gotta get the Niagara Falls National Park in the film. It's part of the day. It's gonna be in the beginning. Gonna see it in a minute. Let's go. The first 15 to 30 seconds, the most important part of any film. Any film that you watch from CinematicBams films, those first 15 to 30 seconds, I want your attention. I want you to want to watch it. So I'm going to make sure in that beginning that it pops. And this is what I did in the beginning of this film. Yeah. CinematicBams film. All right, establishing location was a little bit tricky in Niagara Falls because at Niagara Falls Park it's a no-fly zone. But there's more than one way to skin a cat, so I can figure out a way to still be able to create where I'm at, so you know exactly what's going on. But I was able to fly my drone, get some shots of the church to let you know exactly where we at. The church filled up really quick. It had over probably 300 guests. They had a waiting viewing room, or if you can't get into the main church, you have to watch it on live stream in the other room. This church was really dim. That was the only thing my concern was, because when something is dim and you're trying to shoot and you got windows, and obviously light is coming from the windows, so the windows are going to be blown out because you got your ISO turned up to probably like 25,000. Shutter speed was at 125. I was shooting in 60 frames per second. So that way, if I did want to slow some things down, I could in this whole process. The ceremony itself was extremely long. The beginning part, they had the memorial with the people that passed, so they had people walk in with that part. And then they had to light another candles in the beginning also. And then they had one of the pastors. She talked in the beginning as well before any of the wedding party walked down. All right, now this wedding party had, I want to say, if I remember, it was like 12 to 15 groomsmen and bridesmaids. Now, what was different about this church was the aisles were on the left side and the right side. There was no middle aisle. And I don't even think if they wanted to, both could walk down together because it was pretty tight. So they put the women on the right side, men on the left side. Now, as a shooter, this became difficult because, normally you are shooting the bridesmaids and the groomsmen together. So I had to figure out a way to shoot them separately and them coming down on different sides simultaneously at pretty much the same time. So I made it work. What I did was I just changed the focus point between the front subject and the back subject and just cut it from left to right and just tried to make sure I got everyone possible in the shot during them walking down for the ceremony. So one thing that was different about this wedding is the groom came down right before the bride, and even him getting ready, we got him ready at the house. Like I always say, getting the grooms ready, the shots are really simple and to the point. It's nothing too complicated about it. But I did use the raw audio of him coming down, mainly because people were clapping. It just was better for the raw audio at this particular point. It felt better. It looked better. Everything was just better about the raw audio. I did have to play with the colors a lot on this scene because it was just so dim, and I wanted to make sure I brightened it up as much as I could without losing the quality of the film. All right, on to the bride. Her and makeup, I'm always shooting in 120 frames. I wanted to be slow out of the camera versus me making it slow in post. Yes, I could do it in 60 frames, slow it down, maybe 40%, even 30%, pushing it to get the slow motion that I'm looking for. But I just like the 120 out of the frame. Shutter speed is double that at 240. The makeup artist, she had a light, but it really was working and not working. We had some good natural light in there. So I just went off of that. My ISO probably was around like 3, maybe 4,000. All right, this part is a good teaching moment. It was very tricky because remember they had 2 aisles. So I thought she was coming down the main one when they opened up the door, but she went to the one on the right. And then also what was happening was her son was singing live while she was walking down. I could not cut that audio. I had to let that audio play out through this part and work with what I had. I did have a secondary camera. I had to take my tripod. I think it was up at least 7 foot up to shoot it over the bridesmaids that was right there so I can get the angle on the groom. But the only issue was it was so tight. It was the only shot I really had. Then when she comes over there, I had to go from where the door was, run all the way back down the aisle, go back down the other aisle, but I covered it by keeping the camera on a particular groom. Then I ran into another issue. For whatever reason, when it's dim, the camera's trying to hunt for focus, and it couldn't freaking focus on her because she had the guy that walked her down, pass off to another guy, and pass off to another guy. And the camera was hunting, they couldn't find the focus. So I ended up having to turn the camera off while she was walking down, turn it back on so it can reset and then hunt and find the focus. So I say it's a very teaching moment because in weddings, anything can happen and you have to be prepared and you can't panic. That's the key thing. Do not panic because you know what's going on. Just fix it real quick because most of the time they're walking down so slow. You can fix it and you can cover it up and only you know what happened. And now you guys know what happened. All right, on to the ceremony. I had to cut the ceremony down because I try to make these wedding films to be right at about 30 minutes. I may push it 35 depending on all what's going on. But the ceremony part was a little long. Now, I was limited to my shot angles. One, because I didn't have a lot of space. The groomsmen and the bridesmaids took up a lot of space on the left and right-hand side. The bench was literally right behind them, and I just didn't have many places to be. So I ended up kind of going in the pulpit, getting that shot so I can at least get the back of the officiant and them to their face showing. And then I had my other secondary camera still on the right-hand side of me where I can still see the groom and the bride, but the only problem is it doesn't show their face. So I couldn't use that shot as much, so I just had to go with what I had. This is what worked, and I just pretty much rolled with it, man. You know, normally I like to have multiple different angles, but sometimes you have to work with what is presented to you. If you don't have the space, hey, at least they can see themselves and you can see what's going on and you can still use their photo shoot as B-roll, but don't make it complicated if it's not. You get to moving around and then before you know it, you lose your spot. And then you also had a photographer there as well. I am thankful for him. He was mindful that I was right there and he made sure his second photographer stayed out of my shot that was right behind them, and we just made it work, man. All right, now we're on to the reception. Them coming into this venue was just epic. Like, they took it all in. This couple was together for 20 years. We hadn't got married now, so they took in the moment, and I tried my best to just make sure this moment was epic for them. People had their phones out. Man, it was dope. I was so glad I went ahead and put my lights up. I felt like it was just going to be too dim. The venue had lights in the ceiling, like key lights, and they just didn't turn them on. I don't even know why. So I took it up on myself to pull out my lights, and I knew where they was coming from. The door was going to be dim. So, you know, bring your lights if you have them. I don't use them as often if the venue has lights, but man, me putting my lights up made a total difference in this shot because if I didn't have the lights up, man, it would have been a damn shot right here. All right, now we're on to the first dance. First dance is really simple. I kept my lights on them. The venue had the color lights, which were fine. But the only issue about those color lights sometimes is they can be distracted when it comes to color, and definitely the purples. Like the purples can really add some distortion to the film sometimes. So just be mindful of the colors that are going on in the scene. Another thing is the DJ mixed in 3 different songs in that first dance, so I made sure I put the 3 songs in that first dance because I knew I was going to cut it up and not just let it run raw from out of the camera. And that was just pretty much it. The first dance was short and simple. Only thing was adding the 3 songs while they were doing their dance. All right, so on the let's party, let's turn up part, I pretty much just kept it simple. It was an older crowd, so they really only hit the dance floor when the slides came on. So I kind of just rolled with that. I used the raw audio because slides, if they're doing the, left step, two step, turn around to the back. You wanted to go with the music and not with the imported music. So I just left everything raw doing the actual partying part. I didn't want to make it too complicated with trying to import music and match it with what they were doing. And that was pretty much it, man. Niagara Falls definitely was an experience. I definitely want to go back to just tour. Canada is like literally 2 minutes, across the river. So hopefully in due time, I'll be back in Niagara Falls, New York. Peace.